Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our next presentation. Our next presenting company is ValOre Metals. Presenting on behalf of the company, Jim Paterson, Chairman and CEO, and Colin Smith, New Project Evaluations. Jim, over to you.
Thanks, Derek. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. In a nutshell, investors in ValOre have ownership of an entire PGM district in northeastern Brazil. We're going to talk to you about that today. We're going to talk about the company, the team, a little bit on the palladium platinum market and rhodium. And then we're going to talk about the project that we have in northeastern Brazil called Pedra Branca. Colin's going to walk through some of our highlights from last year in terms of exploration and discovery. We'll then walk you through what we're going to be focusing on this year. We're fully cashed up and ready to rumble on the project. And for those that can stick around to the very end, we've got some bonus materials as a treat. First and foremost, ValOre is a member of Discovery Group. You may have heard of some of these companies that are on the screen here, but for the most part, the companies within the group, which is an alliance of public companies, have great credibility as far as technical abilities, and we have access to tremendous technical skill, economies of scale, buying power, deal flow, capital, and we have all that because the great people have allowed for a great track record. So we'll talk a little bit about deals that we've accomplished as a group in a few slides. As far as the company goes, the market cap is roughly 36 million Canadian. There's 120 million shares outstanding. We recently completed a financing at 30 cents, a little over 5 million in the treasury. In terms of ownership right now, about 20% is held by insiders. Jangada Mines, the company from which we acquired the Pedra Branca project, has over 10 million shares. And then in terms of the directors and leadership of the company, the management of the company, I think to generalize, we've got a board and management team that has experience globally in mineral exploration, M&A, resource evaluation, commodities trading, legal background, a lot of professional geologists and geological engineers. And so this team works together with a highly experienced crew on the ground in Brazil to advance the project. As far as deal flow over the last few years and what we've been able to accomplish as a group, and members of our management team and board have been involved with some pretty substantial deals. Kaminak a few years ago was acquired by Goldcorp. Hathor was acquired by Rio Tinto, and Northern Empire was acquired by Coeur, just to name a few. So there's a team that has the capacity to raise money, deploy it properly on projects to add value through discovery and exploration, and then transact. As far as timing and the markets themselves for PGEs, palladium, platinum, rhodium, you can see the pricing on the left-hand side of the screen there. And a little updated, it's kind of moved $100 down in some of these palladium and platinum on the day. Rhodium's up a bit, but suffice it to say that from when we acquired the project back in 2019, all of the metals have really moved. And if you look over here in the right-hand corner, you can see that palladium is up 77%, platinum's up 55%, gold's up 35%. ValOre itself is up about 26%. And then the real outlier is rhodium, which is up about 740% since we acquired the project. So not being overly promotional, we used much lower numbers to calculate our 43-101 resource that we have that Colin can talk about later. Palladium was at $1,000 in our report. Platinum was at $860, gold at $1,250, and we didn't even calculate for rhodium. So I think that the resource is very conservative, but the long and the short of it is we bought the project at the right time. We got lucky on the commodities. As far as the market, just to generally go over it, palladium and platinum have been in a deficit the last year at least, and palladium for several years. And this is demonstrated by these charts here on the left for palladium, in the middle platinum. And last year was a bit of a surprise for platinum, being in over 1 million ounce deficit. Another thing that we really like as a commercial type of exploration group is that the production of palladium and platinum, PGs in general, is coming from places in the world where there's significant jurisdictional risk. And our project in Brazil does not suffer that same fate. So about 85% of primary supply comes from Russia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, areas that I would consider to carry significant jurisdictional risk. For the most part, these PGEs are used in the auto industry, and more specifically in palladium's case anyways, about 83% or over 80% goes into catalytic converters to clean noxious fumes from engines. Platinum is a little bit less in terms of where it goes in terms of the auto industry, but highly industrialized commodities. And in the case of both of them, last year there was strong demand from the world's manufacturing hub, China, and the long-term demand looks quite positive. From a commercial or industry perspective, why we also like it is not only is there that kind of jurisdictional or regional concentration, but it's really concentrated highly in the hands of 5 big producers. So 5 companies produce over 85% of the world's palladium, and their market caps collectively are quite substantial, over $80 billion. Then here's all the rest, ValOre included, that are explorers, developers that are not producers, quite a bit smaller in terms of market cap. So this is the chum, and on the left you've got the big swimming sharks in the pond. And we think that there will be more transactions like these ones on the right. 2 South African entities that were producers were pretty active in the M&A front, and Red Cloud certainly was experienced with at least one of them in the form of North American Palladium, quite involved with that company before the acquisition. But those are some pretty big deals where the South African producers went out in the world to diversify out of South Africa through acquisition, one in Canada and the other one down here in the Stillwater complex of North America, of USA. As far as the project goes, where it's located, super important, northeastern Brazil. You can see the map right here, Ceará State. And then you've got the town Fortaleza. If you were to come visit us at the project, you would land here in this airport, beautiful airport, international. About 3 million people live in this city, Fortaleza. Skyscrapers, modern economy, paved highways run right into the center of the country. And so you can drive right to our project, about 40,000 hectares here in this, shown by this white map. There's a commercial port in Fortaleza as well that I forgot to mention. And this is the town from which we base our operations, close to 1,000 people, power, water, internet, very supportive local community, lots of roads all over the project and power lines. So it's a great place to work, and it's not rainforest, as you can see from this. Another thing that we really benefit from is over the years, all the different operators that had the project generated some really high quality data. We estimate there's a little over 35 million US that's been spent on the project, from close to 400 drill holes, high quality airborne geophysics, geochem property wide mapping, spectral data, and that we use that as sort of a launching point to start our program in 2020. The thing that I liked about it, just being on site when we were doing our due diligence, and of course we're really benefiting from it now, district scale potential, and this mineralization across about 50 kilometers of strike. We've seen lots of examples of very high grade and near surface mineralization. And of course, those are great things to have, particularly if they're at scale. So now I'm going to pass it over to Colin Smith to take us across the line.
Thank you, Jim, and hello, everybody. So what we're looking at here, Jim can be my mouse as we scan through the next slides. This is a section through a portion of the Esbarro PGE deposit. So the resource itself is defined by 5 distinct deposit areas. This is one part of one of them. And as Jim said, the mineralization, as you'll see in this slide and the following 3 slides, is at or near surface in all the deposit areas. So what you're seeing are vertical drill hole traces, PGE grades in pink down the drill hole trace with the grade scale at the bottom. And the green area represents the mineralized ultramafic intrusion, which hosts the PGEs at Pedra Branca. And basically anything you're seeing on these drill hole traces here is at or above the resource grade of 1.22. The next slides here will show, again, cross sections through all of the 5 PGE deposits, which are defined by the resource. And as you can see, it's a little over 1 million ounces. The one Jim is circling right there is the Esbarro. We were just looking at that in the previous slide. Pink again are PGE grades down hole. And again, we're seeing mineralization at or near surface in all 3 of these. It's noteworthy that these three deposits comprise about 60% of the resource, and they're within about a 5-kilometer radius of each other. We'll move now to the Trapia system, which is south of the previous three. And much like we saw before, the PGE mineralization is at or near surface. We drilled both Trapia 1 and Trapia 2 last year. Very exciting results, and huge openness remains, massive exploration upside. This thing is completely open at depth along strike, and it'll be a big focus of our 2021 drilling. Lastly is the Santo Amaro deposit. This is in the far north part of the project area. We also drilled that last year and had very exciting results. The cross-section of the mineralized drill holes is bottom left there. And once again, this is at surface mineralization with extensive exploration upside to be tested this year. Next slide. Okay, so 2020 drill program. This is a summary just explaining what we accomplished. A little over 6,300 meters in 48 drill holes. That tested 9 targets property-wide. The location of those targets is illustrated in the map that you see there. There were 3 classes of targets where we looked to three classes of targets. First and foremost was resource expansion. So how can we drill to expand the existing inferred resource? Target advancement of pre-resource targets. And last but not least, new discovery style targets. These are ValOre generated systems whereby previously undrilled, we looked to drill them last year, and we had a PGE discovery at the C04 target, which is close to the 3 central deposits, which you see there by the mouse. Now, this is a cross section through one of the Trapia ore deposits. It's one of the 5 PGE deposit areas. The inset map that you're seeing on the left there represents yellow being 2020 drill holes, the white represent historical holes, and the red is a 3D mag inversion target. Now, the only historical hole you're seeing in this cross section, which is denoted by D to D prime.
How am I doing so far? There we go.
Perfect. So that's the only historical hole that you're seeing in this section. So we look to step both up dip and down dip from this hole. First and foremost, TU10 intercepted 1.24 grams per ton over 52 meters from surface. We then stepped down dip from the historical hole there and drilled TU12. And that intercepted an over 100 meter interval of, as you can see in the top left there, 0.76 grams. And this thing is totally open at depth. It's open at depth throughout the entire strike length of the existing resource and the targets that we drilled last year to the south. And as Jim circled there, this thing is thickening. With every hole we drill down dip, this thing is getting wider and wider. So very exciting follow-up targets for this year. Now we'll step 1 section line to the south of there. And so these are all drill holes that are sitting entirely out of the resource in this mag target. And the standout hole from last year was probably TU20 there, which is the right-hand hole in that section. It was an over 76 meter interval of 1.25 grams per ton. And it had high grade intervals there within of, as you can see here, 30.5 meters at 2.33. And then within that actually was a 15 meter interval of 4.2 grams per ton. 2 PGE plus gold. That's palladium to platinum, about 2-to-1 ratio palladium to platinum with some gold. And the important thing to see in the core photos here, the red numbers represent grams per ton samples on a meter to meter basis. So sometimes you see runs of core that have a 30, a 40, then a bunch of 0.2s. Just run your eyes, across those numbers, and you're seeing a really consistent run of well mineralized drill core throughout the entire thickness of that interval. Now, we recognize that a lot of value can be added through innovation and process improvement. Now, this includes things like the development and validation of new targeting methodologies, mineral processing routes, and metallurgy. So the next few slides will take you through some of these exercises we're working on. Now, sensory-based ore sorting. So what is that exactly? Basically, it's using distinct physical properties of the rock to sort it. So, you can create a high-grade stockpile, you can eliminate waste, ultimately trying to improve the project economics. So far to date, we've received very encouraging results from the Steinart ore sorting test work. And I'll direct your attention to the scatter plot on the bottom right. It basically shows the ability to separate the mineralized material, so chromite, from barren waste rock on a density basis. The chromite is much higher density, so the sensory-based ore sorting can target that density difference and basically sort those 2 classes of rock. We are following this up now with a 300 kilo bulk sample, and the ore sorting test work is ongoing as we speak at Steinert in Brazil. Now the Vero Liberator. So this is, again, one of these innovative processing routes, and this in particular uses high impact crushing. So it blows apart rocks along preferential planes of weakness as opposed to conventional grinding like a SAG and ball mill. What does that mean? Basically, it can drastically improve the liberation of the sought after metals. So for us, palladium, platinum, gold, rhodium. And not only that, it is a completely waterless process. And on average, it uses 70% less energy than conventional milling and up to 90% in some circumstances. So we had 6 20 kilo samples crushed by the Vero Liberator in Hamburg, Germany earlier this year. That material has since been shipped to SGS in Ontario to undergo subsequent metallurgical work. Now, another one of these encouraging mineral processing routes is the Falcon ultrafine gravity concentrator. This system basically targets both the fine nature of the PGE minerals at Pedra Branca and also the density contrast. And to date, the results have been very favorable for recovering high percentages of platinum. So lastly, we demonstrated in 2020 excellent PGE recoveries in Platsol pressure leaching and cyanide leaching recovery, 2 totally separate alternatives. And as you can see, the recoveries for Platsol were in the mid 90 percentile range for both palladium and platinum. And we received excellent numbers for palladium recovering in cyanide leach. We'll be broadening the scope on both of these alternatives heavily this year. And last but not least, rhodium, as Jim showed before in that graph. I mean, rhodium has really had quite a run the past little while. Previous to ValOre, there's been no rhodium sampling at all of drill core in the history of the project. We looked at that as an opportunity, and thus we started to resample historical drill cores for rhodium analysis. So to date, we have sent over 280 samples to SGS in Brazil. 60% of those have come back with anomalous rhodium. And we're thus broadening the scope of that to include a number of additional samples from all the deposit areas and several of the exploration targets that we've been drilling as well.
And I just want to shout out that, currently rhodium's on a per ounce basis is about 10 times the value of gold. So it's worth looking for if you've got it.
Great, and I'll send it back to Jim.
Good segue. Thanks, Colin. So this was a big year. We bolstered the technical team, a fully fledged and independent exploration team in Brazil that communicates with our team in Canada and North America incredibly well, and have been advancing the project very efficiently and effectively. We drilled 6,300 meters. We proved that the methodologies that we're using to make discoveries works. As Colin went through, this metallurgical test work is critical to determine if you've got a high margin project or one that might succeed in the future. So we're de-risking it, and there was a lot of demonstration of insider support of the company last year. We secured over $2 million in financing from insiders last year, and a big financing happened recently with the help of Red Cloud as well. So we were involved with financing there. It's left us in a great position, a full treasury to get after it in 2021. We'll be drilling within the month, hopefully there, and we'll be focusing on resource expansion, discovery drilling at Trapia, which Colin walked through, and Santo Amaro in the north, resource delineation drilling at Asparo and Curiú, which are in the central portion of the project, and then target advancement drilling at Canabrava and the C4, which are just a little bit north of Asparo and Curiú. Property-wide, there's a district scale exploration potential in our view, and our team's busy looking to generate targets, and then that will be drilled hopefully as well in 2021 or in 2022, just depending on how much time we have to get to them. And then that final thing with respect to metallurgy and process development, we're there to determine the highest, safest, highest margin and most productive project development strategy. So, and that stuff is really bearing fruit. So I did promise bonus material. So we walked through all of the PGE, the project Pedra Branca in Brazil. And for those that stick around right to the end, we also have in the company, 100% ownership of 43 million pounds of high-grade uranium in northern Canada, in Nunavut territory. This is about 50,000 hectares in Nunavut, south of Baker Lake. We have a 43101 resource of over 43 million pounds, as I said, at 0.69%. We've done 3 different resource estimates over the last several years. We acquired the project in 2008. And we've done metallurgy on the project, which generated high recovery rates and low impurities. A really appealing yellow cake product, according to experts. Spent over 55 million. And not only is there a resource on the project, but the exploration potential of this project is significant. So if you look over here, that's where the resource area is. And every other red star or red blob on this map or red square is a uranium showing or a discovery. The stars are actually drilled. So we have uranium and drill core. So over 25 kilometers away from the 43 million pounds, we have what we believe to be a mirror system over here that looks exactly the same geologically, where we've drilled the dipole, previous operators drilled rib, and we have high quality geophysics and geochem as well. So within ValOre, the bonus material is a high grade uranium project. And it seems like uranium prices are coming back and we might get some interest. And that's that, Derek. We want some witty remarks from you now.
Great. Well, I actually, that is it for time. So we are all out. I'd like to thank everybody for attending the presentation and encourage everyone to jump over to the next presentation that's starting now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.